Welcome everyone. Comment your idea on a story you want for the next video. Today's story will be about poor souls who just wanted to make a little trip into a bunker. Don't forget to like and subscribe for daily stories. Now let's see if the trip went as planned. The bunker door groaned like an animal as we forced it open, hinges screaming from decades of rust. Cold air rolled out, thick with the smell of mold and something sharper, like copper. Jonas glanced at me, his grin uneasy in the glow of our flashlights. "You sure about this?" he whispered. "Yeah," I lied. "We're already here." The hallway stretched into blackness, long and straight, lined with peeling paint and pipes that wept slow drips onto the concrete floor. Every footstep echoed unnaturally, bouncing off the low ceiling and returning in distorted whispers. The deeper we went, the more it felt like the air thickened, as if the whole bunker was holding its breath. We found the first door halfway down the corridor, hanging slightly ajar. Inside was a control room, all dead consoles and shattered screens. Dust clung to everything like frost. Jonas brushed his fingers over a switch and chuckled nervously. "Imagine turning this back on. Probably light up the whole place." I didn't laugh. Something about this room felt wrong. A sound drifted through the corridor behind us. Metal scraping on concrete, slow and deliberate. Jonas froze, eyes wide. What the hell was that? I strained my ears. Nothing now, just the steady drip of water somewhere deep in the walls. "Probably something falling over," I muttered, though I didn't believe it. We stepped back into the hall. My flashlight caught fresh scuffs on the floor, cutting through the dust. Boot prints. Recent. "Hey," Jonas whispered. "Didn't you say this place was sealed?" It was. The scraping came again, closer this time, like something sharp dragging along the wall. "Hello," Jonas called out, his voice cracking slightly. The answer was laughter. Low at first, then louder, jagged, unhinged. We ran. The corridor forked, and we darted left, straight into an old sleeping quarters. Rows of rusted bunk beds and rotting mattresses. We hid behind one, flashlights off, hearts hammering in unison. Footsteps followed, slow and deliberate. Whoever it was, they were taking their time, savoring it. A voice floated through the room, sing-song and broken. "You shouldn't have come. You shouldn't be here." Jonas gripped my arm so hard it hurt. I could feel him shaking. The footsteps stopped. Silence swallowed the room. Then, a whisper right behind the bunk bed. "Found you." The knife hit the mattress above us, ripping through cloth and stuffing. Jonas screamed and bolted, and I scrambled after him as the blade jerked free, metal screeching on the bed frame. The figure stepped out into view, tall and thin, clothes ragged and filthy, eyes wide and shining in the dark like an animal's. The knife was long, rusted, and wet with something I didn't want to think about. We sprinted deeper into the bunker, blindly navigating corridors that all looked the same. The man's laughter echoed, chasing us, bouncing off walls so we could never tell where he actually was. A stairwell appeared, descending into the lower levels. Jonas hesitated at the top. "You sure about this?" "It's either down or back toward him," I snapped, shoving him forward. The stairs were narrow and steep, each step coated with dust and grit. At the bottom, the air felt heavier, fouler. This level was tighter, claustrophobic. Rooms lined with old lockers and shelves of rusted tools, most broken beyond recognition. We ducked into one of the rooms and slammed the door, propping a shelf against it. Jonas was shaking, muttering under his breath. "We're gonna die down here, man. We're gonna die down here." "Shut up," I hissed. "Just let me think." But I couldn't think. I could barely breathe. The footsteps came again. Slow, deliberate. They stopped outside the door. A finger dragged across the metal, nails scratching like chalk. "Are you scared?" The voice whispered, "I like it when you're scared." The door handle turned slowly, deliberately, until it clanged against the shelf we'd wedged. Silence followed. Then the man started to hum. A twisted, broken melody. Jonas started crying quietly, and I clamped a hand over his mouth. My flashlight beam swept the room, looking for another exit. There, an old maintenance hatch near the floor, barely wide enough to crawl through. I whispered, "Help me." And together we pried it open, the rust screaming as flakes rained down. The tunnel beyond was pitch black, but it was a way out. We slid inside, pulling the hatch closed behind us just as the door crashed open. The tunnel was narrow, barely enough to crawl. Our flashlights lit a cramped space lined with cables and pipes. Jonas moved first, muttering prayers under his breath, while I kept looking back, terrified I'd see his face peering through the hatch. Halfway down the tunnel, a metallic clang echoed behind us. He was coming. Jonas panicked, crawling faster, elbows scraping against jagged metal. "Move! Move!" he shouted. I scrambled after him, knees slipping on grime and grease. The tunnel seemed endless, twisting deeper and deeper into the earth. A whisper echoed behind us, impossibly close. "I can hear you breathing." We hit another hatch, this one jammed. Jonas pushed, grunted, slammed his shoulder into it, but it wouldn't budge. The scraping came again, and I saw shadows moving in the beam of my flashlight. He was in the tunnel with us now. "Go, go, go!" I screamed, throwing my shoulder into the hatch alongside Jonas. It gave with a screech, swinging open into another chamber, bigger, round, with a central pillar of pipes and old machinery. We ran inside and slammed the hatch shut. There was no lock. Jonas turned in a circle, panicked. "Where the hell are we?" I didn't answer. I was staring at the walls. They were covered in drawings. Crude figures, stickmen with knives, stickmen bleeding, stickmen hanging upside down. Words scrawled in charcoal. My house. My rules. A metallic thud hit the hatch, then again, harder. He was there. Jonas grabbed a length of pipe from the floor, knuckles white. I picked up a broken wrench. We backed up to the far wall as the hatch slowly swung open. The man crawled through on all fours, face split into an animal grin, knife glinting in the light. "You don't leave me," he whispered. "Ever." Jonas swung first, wild and desperate, the length of pipe whistling through the stale air. The psycho ducked, moving with a jerky speed that didn't look human, and lunged at him. Jonas stumbled back, the knife flashing past his chest by an inch, scraping sparks off the wall. I rushed in with the wrench, aiming for his head. He twisted at the last second, the blow catching his shoulder instead. The sound it made, bone or muscle, I couldn't tell, didn't even slow him down. He turned on me, eyes wide, teeth bared, spittle hanging in a thin string from his lip. "You smell alive," he hissed, voice cracking like dry wood. "I love it." He lunged, knife stabbing, and I jumped back, tripping over a loose coil of wire. I hit the ground hard, the wrench clattering from my hand. Jonas screamed, charging from behind, slamming the pipe down onto the psycho's back. The man barely reacted, spinning fast, his knife slashing upward. Jonas screamed again, this time in pain, as the blade cut into his forearm. Blood splashed onto the dusty floor. "Jonas!" I crawled to the wrench, fingers scraping it just as the psycho's bare foot came down hard on my wrist. Pain shot up my arm, but I didn't have time to scream. He crouched over me, his knife inching closer to my face. "I'll make you perfect," he whispered, tilting his head like a curious animal. Jonas, bleeding and pale, slammed the pipe sideways into the man's ribs with everything he had. The psycho howled, stumbling off me, and Jonas yelled, "Get up, man! Get up!" I scrambled to my feet as the psycho crouched again, knife dragging along the floor with a screech. That sound, metal over concrete, rattled my teeth and set every nerve on fire. He was enjoying this, playing with us. Jonas backed toward a far door on the other side of the chamber. "There!" he yelled. I grabbed his arm, helping him limp as we ran, the psycho following at an unnerving, steady pace. He didn't sprint. He didn't have to. We crashed through the door into another corridor, this one lined with storage cages and shelves packed with rotting boxes. The smell hit like a fist. Wet paper, mold, and something dead long enough to blend into the walls. Jonas groaned, clutching his bleeding arm. "He's gonna kill us," he muttered. "He's gonna. Shut up and move." I shoved him forward as the door behind us creaked open. That damn dragging sound started again. Slow, teasing, the kind of sound someone makes when they want you to hear them coming. We darted into one of the storage cages and yanked the mesh door shut, looping an old chain through it. I turned off both our flashlights, plunging us into black. Jonas was breathing hard, almost hyperventilating. Footsteps approached, slow and deliberate. Then they stopped right outside our cage. For a long moment, there was nothing, just the sound of him breathing. Then his fingers curled through the mesh, pale and scarred, gripping the metal hard enough to squeal. "You can't hide in my house," he whispered, dragging the knife along the mesh door, ringing it like a bell. Jonas's breath hitched audibly, and the psycho laughed softly. "You're bleeding. I can smell it." Then silence again. We waited, every muscle locked. My mind screamed at me to run, but my body refused to move. Minutes or hours, I couldn't tell, crawled by in that silence, broken only by the faint drip of water somewhere far away. Jonas leaned close, whispering so low I almost couldn't hear him. "I think he's gone." A voice came from inside the cage, inches from our ears. "No, I'm right here." Jonas screamed and stumbled backward, tripping over an old crate, crashing to the ground with a thud that echoed down the corridor. I froze, my brain refusing to process what my eyes were telling me. The psycho was inside the cage with us. The chain on the door was still looped tight. He hadn't come through it. There was no second door. He had just been there, crouched in the darkness like he had been waiting for us all along. His grin widened in the dim light, teeth yellowed and jagged, eyes locked on Jonas. The knife rose slowly, almost lovingly, as he whispered, "You made this easy." Instinct took over. I lunged forward, grabbing a loose metal pole from the floor, and swung it as hard as I could. The impact cracked across his jaw with a sickening snap, but instead of dropping, he laughed. A wet, gurgling sound before staggering a step back. Jonas scrambled to his feet, clutching his bleeding arm. "How the hell did he?" "Don't!" I snapped, cutting him off. "No time for questions. Move!" We crashed through a pile of boxes in the far corner, forcing our way out of the cage by ripping the mesh open with sheer panic and adrenaline. Metal wires tore at our clothes, slicing my arm, but we didn't stop. Behind us, the psycho shrieked. A sharp, high-pitched sound like a feral animal, before bursting through the mesh like it was paper. The chase was on again. We sprinted through twisting corridors, barely able to see in the flickering light from my half-broken flashlight. My lungs burned, and Jonas stumbled every few steps, blood soaking the side of his jacket. His breathing was ragged, wheezing, but he kept pace, terror fueling every movement. Somewhere behind us, the psycho's bare feet slapped against the concrete, slow but steady, never faltering, like he knew exactly where we were going before we did. We found another stairwell, this one spiraling down into absolute blackness. I hesitated for half a second, staring into that endless drop. "We can't go deeper." Jonas grabbed my collar, pulling me with him. "We don't have a choice." The stairs were slick, some steps cracked and uneven. Halfway down, Jonas nearly slipped, catching himself on the rail. His blood left slick red smears on the metal. The psycho's laughter echoed above us, bouncing off the stairwell walls. Down, down, down you go. I love the basement. We hit the bottom hard, bursting through another doorway into what looked like an old medical bay. Rusted stretchers, shattered glass cabinets, and the faint smell of ammonia still lingering after decades. Jonas collapsed against a wall, clutching his arm tighter. I can't keep running. I scanned the room frantically, flashlight shaking in my hands. There, a heavy metal cabinet in the corner, big enough for us to squeeze behind. Over here. We shoved ourselves into the gap behind the cabinet, crouching low, trying to control our breathing. The room went silent again except for the pounding of my heart. Then came the sound of him entering the room. The knife dragged across the floor in slow, deliberate strokes, the sound slicing straight into my bones. His breathing was louder now, closer. He sniffed the air like a predator, muttering to himself in broken fragments. Blood? Sweet? Sharp? Where are you hiding? Jonas trembled beside me, his teeth clenched to keep from making a sound. My own chest felt like it might explode from holding in the air. The knife scraping stopped. Silence. I dared to peek around the cabinet just for a fraction of a second. He was crouched right there, inches away, staring directly at me with that wide, gleaming grin. I jerked back, slamming my head against the wall. Jonas gasped involuntarily, and the psycho's laugh erupted, deafening in the small room. He lunged. I shoved Jonas out from behind the cabinet just as the psycho's knife came slashing down. It hit the wall where my head had been, sparks spitting from the rusted metal. Jonas stumbled, clutching his arm, but I grabbed him and dragged him toward the far doorway. The psycho laughed again, wild and shrill, his footsteps quickening now, no longer savoring. He wanted the kill. We sprinted into another hallway, but this one was different. Narrow, lined with sealed steel doors, no exits except the one at the very end. My stomach dropped as I realized what we'd done. We'd cornered ourselves. Jonas collapsed halfway, knees giving out. I can't. I crouched, grabbing him by the collar. You can. Get up. The psycho's silhouette filled the doorway behind us, knife gleaming even in the weak light. He stepped inside, slow and deliberate, grin wider than ever. This is it, he whispered. No more running. I grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and yanked out the pin. As he lunged, I swung it hard, smashing it into his face. The metal crunched against bone, knocking him off his feet with a howl of rage and pain. I didn't stop. I slammed it into his chest over and over, until the sound of him laughing turned into wet choking. Jonas stared, trembling. Is he dead? I looked down. The psycho lay sprawled, eyes open, chest rising faintly. He was smiling, even beaten bloody, teeth broken, jaw hanging unnaturally. He was still smiling. Jonas, get up, I said, grabbing him by the arm. We have to move. Now. We made it to the last door at the end of the hallway, kicked it open and froze. Beyond it was a stairwell leading up, just like the entrance we came through. But all the steps were gone. It was just a concrete shaft, dropping into pitch-black nothingness. A voice whispered behind us, weak but close enough to feel the breath on my neck. You're not leaving. I spun, swinging the extinguisher one last time, but the psycho wasn't where I left him. He was right behind Jonas. The knife sank into Jonas's side with a wet crunch. Jonas screamed, staggering back into me. I tried to grab him, tried to pull him away, but the psycho's other hand locked onto my throat, squeezing hard enough to blur my vision. His face was inches from mine, eyes wild, teeth bloodied, breath foul. You're mine now, he whispered. I swung blindly, connecting with his temple. He released me, stumbling, but his knife stayed buried in Jonas. Jonas crumpled, gasping, eyes wide and glassy. I grabbed him, blood soaking my hands, but there was nothing I could do. His breathing was already shallow, too fast. The psycho straightened, one eye swollen shut from my blow, and smiled again. "Run," he whispered. "Please, run." Something inside me snapped. I didn't run. I charged him, slamming him into the wall. The knife clattered to the floor, and we grappled, his nails clawing into my face, his teeth snapping at my neck like an animal. I felt my hand close around the knife handle, ripped it free from Jonas, and drove it upward into the psycho's chest. He froze and laughed. Blood bubbled from his mouth, but he still laughed, whispering, "You belong here." Before collapsing in a heap, Jonas was gone. His eyes were open, but there was nothing behind them. I stood there, trembling, knife still in my hand, the smell of iron and rot filling my lungs. Somewhere deeper in the bunker, a door slammed. Footsteps echoed, soft, deliberate. I turned slowly, realizing something I didn't want to. That wasn't him. That was someone else. And I was still trapped.